Well, man,
You
there's
know,
no fucking. I mean, the thing is, there's no rules. It's like you. This is the main rule is this is your incarnation, and you get to do what you want with it. The idea is to, like, as much as you can, expand in your levels of happiness and your awareness, so that you can feel connected and good in this existence. And there are a lot of tools to do that. Some of the tools take a long fucking time to do. And I think, like, when McKenna was talking about mushrooms being the most obvious tool to transform to create like a huge wide-scale transformation on the planet, he recognized that there's not a lot of time. That's what he was thinking. It's not like we've got a ton of fucking time to create like meditation temples or to spread good information or to spread some new religion. There's no time for that shit. You would, if you really wanted to transform these weird people who worship invisible, homophobic, child-sacrificing gods, if you wanted to transform people who feel comfortable dropping bombs on other people, then the quickest way to do it would be to give them a substance that allowed them to connect to each other and to the earth and to develop an instantaneous form of empathy unlike anything else. And then when they came back to, it'd be much more difficult to think about, to perceive what their weird invisible God in the same way.
Yeah, it's almost like we're moving in a direction, in a terrible direction, because we don't have the proper ingredients. So because we don't have the proper ingredients, we can't feel what we're doing. It's almost like we have a numb arm probing into the darkness, and that numb arm is scratching the fuck out of reality.
Yeah.
And we don't know it because we just can't feel it. But if we could just feel it, if we could add this other ingredient into the mixture that is life, well then, okay, now all your pieces are in order, and now you can see and feel what you're doing. Because the big problem with human beings when it comes to pollution, when it comes to destroying the atmosphere, when it comes to the idea of, you know, what these nuclear disasters, we're not feeling it. We don't feel it. We don't feel the damage that we're doing. We don't feel the garbage patch in the ocean. We don't feel anything when you throw, when you take a water bottle and then you toss it in the garbage can. You did your job. I'm done. I'm done. I have no connection with this anymore. And then we don't feel when it goes into the ocean and becomes a fucking patch that's floating, that's as big as Texas. We don't feel that. And that is a lack of a connection. That's a missing thing. That's an animal that doesn't have all of its ingredients.
Well, it's fucking blind. Yeah. That's what it is. It's blind, and everyone's stumbling around blind, and their focus is on material gain, and their focus is on shit that can, if it does make you happy, it's a form of very transient, temporary happiness that's, for a lot of people, it's usually followed by like depression and stress, like people who buy shit they can't afford, get into debt to the banks and become slaves. And so, yeah, man, people have lost the initial or original connection with the spirit of the earth. You know, if you think about like ayahuasca and the people drinking it in the jungle and communing with the mind of nature, and then getting direction from the tribe, from the mind of nature.
And for people that think this is hippie bullshit, when scientists first came to the Amazon and discovered ayahuasca, they tried to call it telepathine. That's what they were going to try to talk, that's what they were going to name it as, because of the fact that they were able to have these telepathic experiences with each other, and they all communicated about having shared visions and shared hallucinations. Yeah. So they were going to call it telepathine, but it was already, the chemical in it was already named harmine, or the you know, whatever the substance was. And so they had to stick with the name harmine.
But well, see, this substance, I think, for these people has been a form of spiritual compass. It points in the right direction. It sets you straight. It's like a tuning fork for your soul.
But it's amazing that talking about this, how did this happen? Talking about this is ridiculous. Talking about this is absolutely silly. I feel nervous when we start talking about mushrooms can change the world, because I'm like, who the fuck you know, what is this idiot saying? You know, what kind of nonsense is he saying? But meanwhile, you're compelled. Meanwhile, you're compelled to say, listen, I know it sounds stupid. I know I'm a goofy-looking fuck. I know I'm the Fear Factor guy. I know, you know, who the hell am I? I barely got through high school, went to 3 years of college where I halfway paid attention. But I'm saying that we might be overlooking one of the biggest tools that human beings have ever had for evolving and developing. And that might be why the fucking train is off the tracks and into the woods. It might be that the animal isn't balanced. And it might be that the animal literally developed eating all this stuff. The animal might have become consciousness and aware from being a savage, eating all this stuff. It might be, you know, we might have a symbiotic relationship on this earth with certain plants that we've made illegal. We might need them in order to be aware of our potential, the potential harm that we can do, the potential good that we can do,
there's
the
no
value of
there's
positivity.
There's no might about it.
The value of positivity is so important when you're on a substance. That is where all bad trips come from. All bad trips come from some negativity, whether it's a paranoia, whether it's a fear, whether it's a bad memory that you have that you're trying to avoid, shitty behavior that haunts you that you can't correct, whatever the fuck it is that triggers the bad trip. It's always a negative thing.
Well, what it is it's what's happening is when you're taking a psychedelic, you're being given a glimpse at yourself from a distance that maybe you haven't obtained. And like meditation will give you that distance. It gives you a form of intense mindfulness. And so all of a sudden you're able to see I think the root of whatever pattern your life has become. And the root is a feeling. And that feeling for a lot of people can be a negative feeling. And so that's when people say, I don't like smoking pot, man, because it makes me get introspective and I get paranoid and nervous. Yeah. It's like, no, pot is not making you paranoid. Pot is showing you the paranoia that exists deep within you that's causing you to act fucking weird and causing your relationships to be a little more dulled than they need to be and causing your actions to be a little muted because you're afraid of the reaction that people are going to have to you because you're still stuck in survival. You want to survive so bad that you're scared, and you've covered that up with all the different whatever clothes you've decided you're going to wear in this incarnation and your tattoos or whatever you've learned. But deep within that, behind all that for a lot of people is something that you could easily term negative energy, but I think it's fear. Yeah, it's fear, and psychedelics show you that. And so the way to trip and these centers that you're talking about, and if these centers were there, then when someone started experiencing a difficult trip, then these people would, instead of getting them away from that, they'd, in the best way possible, try to turn the person to it. Like, what is that fear? Is that fear real? Because the joy of a psychedelic is when you have the balls to go into the darkness, and all of a sudden you realize that darkness was a complete illusion. All the darkness and negativity and spooky shit and guilt and fear and crap you thought was inside you and all the bad things you thought you've done and all the things that you feel terrible about secretly, you realize that's nothing. It's an illusion. The universe loves you. You're completely embraced by the entire universe. You're an incremental part of the functioning of the cosmos, and you're an incredible, wonderful, perfect fucking thing. And when you get a glimpse of that, it's the greatest feeling ever because you're healed. Because that's what true healing is, man. True healing is realizing you were never sick in the first place. True healing is realizing you just had some fucking you had a little bit of dust on the windshield, man. You brush it off, That's all. And that's what psychedelics do for you. And you know what else does that for you? Really good therapy. But really good therapy costs a lot of money and it takes a long fucking time.
And you have to be open to it. You have to be open to change and smart, and you have to have the ability to recognize your own faults.
Yeah.
Some people just have this weird shield between them and reality where they've become successful because they never admit guilt. And they just press forward and they rationalize every single thing they do. And they just press forward. And that becomes a mindset just as much as, what we're talking about. That becomes just how